All right. Wow. Good stuff there from Dave Abdallah, Lucy Ham. Dave is probably my favorite interview that we've ever done because I just love his energy and enthusiasm. And, Dave and Lucy, interesting enough, work in the same area. And Dave, for those of you that were here, heard that his biggest struggle is past client centers of influence. He's a prospector. And Lucy Ham, who Neil was just doing that interview with, is all database, like 6,000 in their database, and doesn't do any other prospecting. So Mike Ferry had always said that if Dave and Lucy ever had a baby, it would be the most amazing real estate agent in the history of the world. So, what are you going to do? Okay, so let's talk a little bit. It's 3:30 Thursday, 3:30 on Thursdays. We're always talking about just listings. So I wrote down a list of ideas here on how to strengthen your listing presentation. Okay, how to strengthen your listing presentation. Now, before I get started on that, remember that on the three, main key prospect or key items of generating business, which is prospecting, presenting, and closing, the most important one of those three is presenting. Now, some people will always typically say, well, it's prospecting, because if I can't prospect for business, I can't get a presentation. Or, well, I can go on a presentation, but if I can't close, right. I hear all that. The presentation is more important. Why? Well, if you know the presentation really well, you will have more confidence when prospecting. Okay, so that will then help you from a prospecting standpoint. Because believe it or not, if you don't have confidence with your presentation, you do hesitate a little bit on prospecting, just the truth. And even if you do get an appointment prospecting and they said, hey, yeah, could you come over tonight at 6? If you're not any good at your presentation, then it was a useless time of prospecting, because you're going to go over there, fall on your face, and not get the deal anyways. Okay, so that's why the presentation is more important than prospecting. As far as closing is just the natural end to a great presentation. So typically you only have to close real hard when they didn't really buy your presentation. Okay, you could also write this down here. The number of objections you get is in direct correlation to the quality of your listing presentation. So it's just as a reminder that between those three things, if you're going to work on one thing above all else, it's work on the actual presentation. So that's that. So let's talk about, though, how to actually strengthen your listing presentation. All these points that I wrote down here, they're not in any order of importance. They're just simply how I wrote them down. Some of this stuff you've probably heard before. Some of this you might be doing. Maybe there's one or two things in here that stand out to you and make some sort of sense. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. All right, so the first thing I wrote down here in order to strengthen your listing presentation is that you have to develop the conviction that of what you do, how you do it, and when you do it creates significant benefit to the seller. You have to develop the conviction that what you do, how you do it, and when you do it creates significant benefit to the seller. So here's a great question that I would ask is, and you don't have to answer, it's all kind of rhetorical, but you have to ask yourself, based on what the seller's telling you, do you really believe that this is a good time for them to sell? For some people, the answer you would always think, well, yeah, what a great market. Well, for some people, it might not be. But you have to ask yourself that question, because if you don't think it's a good time for them to sell, most of you are not good enough to fake it. Hold on one second. Most of you are not good enough to fake that you think it's not a great time for them to sell, and you're still going to pitch them on selling. Okay, so you need that. So that's always a great question to ask. But the other thing is, do you truly believe that what you do is a benefit to them to get it sold? So here's a great question to ask. What do you do other than put it on the MLS and wait? Do you actually do else, or do you just try to think that you do other stuff? If you're just someone that puts it on the MLS, waits for offers to come in, and then just shows the offers to the seller, that's not really that hard to do. Now, yeah, you'll get it sold, but that's not strengthening your listing presentation, because really you don't have a strong conviction that what you do is really beneficial to the seller, because you're not really doing anything. Okay. So you have to develop the conviction that what you do, how you do it, and when you do it actually creates a significant benefit. Okay, so that's the benefit. That's one of the key steps to strengthen your listing presentation. Now, here's the really neat thing. Here's the really neat thing about real estate. You're competing against a bunch of knuckleheads. Okay, that's just the truth of our business. Okay, we are a business that solicits incompetence. Well, what do you mean, Robert? Well, to get a real estate license, you just need to pass a test and be alive and not have a criminal record from a financial standpoint. It's not hard to get a license. There's no requirement. There's no training you have to go through to actually learn how to sell. There's no closing requirements. There's all you have to do is take some classes. You can be completely incompetent. You could have multiple jobs. You could never do a real estate deal, all these other different things. But as long as you pay your dues, then you're good. Okay. So the benefit of that, what I mean is developing that conviction, is that you should easily be able to develop the conviction that what you do and how you do it and why you do it is a significant value to the seller, because most other people with an active real estate license don't do what you do. So the conviction part should come pretty simple in terms of that, but I wrote that down here. All right, I wrote down here the second point on strengthening your listing presentation. Commit to doing a listing process the same way every single time. If you want to strengthen your listing presentation, do the listing process the same way every single time. When you do it the same way every single time, it takes the stress and emotion out of the presentation. Remember, you're not there to create stress. You're there to reduce stress. So when you have the same process, it's easy, it's smooth, it's comfortable. You're comfortable, you're calm, which then makes the seller calm, the seller comfortable. Do the listing process the same way every time. It also really helps that you don't have to come up with anything creative. You don't have to wing it. You have the same process every time. This is why we talk about canned presentations. Well, I don't want to follow a script. Well, what do? Well, I just, talk to the seller and we, figure it out. Okay. So I'll bet anyone that says that says 20 times in a 5-minute listing presentation. And if you say in a listing presentation, the seller automatically knows you don't know what you're talking about. And for those people that wing it, or, well, I'm just going to build a rapport and then, we'll figure it out from there, I'll bet you say a lot. You may not know it, but if you record it, I'll bet you do. Have a script, have a process. You don't have to follow any particular script. We follow Mike Ferry scripts. If you don't like Mike Ferry, follow Tom Ferry. If you don't like Tom Ferry, follow Brian Buffini. If you don't like Brian Buffini, I don't know, follow somebody. Okay. But have a script and follow it every single time. Have a process every single time. Do you have a listing process? Meaning that, do you send out a pre-listing package? Do you have the same structured pre-listing package? Do you call back and confirm? Do you pre-qualify? Do you show up roughly the same amount? Do you have the same pre-listing routine? Follow the same process every single time will strengthen your listing presentation. I wrote down here, if you want to strengthen your listing presentation, this kind of goes with point B, is strengthen your knowledge of the script. Strengthen your knowledge of the script. Again, whatever script it may be. So one of the ways you can do that is commit to writing out the listing presentation script once a day for the next 30 days. That could be a way of strengthening your listing presentation. I would also, if you don't like writing or the writing thing doesn't appeal to you, I would role play a listing presentation every day. Here's what you should be doing. Every single day, or at least every working day, you should either be going on a live listing presentation or role playing a listing presentation. It doesn't even have to be a real estate agent. Could be someone at your house, friends, family, whatever, but role play a listing presentation. You have to know the script if you want to strengthen your listing presentation, because again, the more ums that come out, the less chance you have of getting a deal. And if they say, for example, well, we'd like you to cut your commission, and you go, well, it's over. Next, thanks for playing. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Learn the scripts. Okay. I also wrote down here underneath that, to strengthen your listing presentation, as part of that is you should never be caught off guard with what a seller says. So identify in your marketplace what the major objections that a seller is going to say, or what the major concerns are that a seller is going to say, and learn 4 or 5 ways of handling that. See, some of you, what you do is you'll know 40 different objection handlers. Well, you don't get 40 different objections, do you? What do most people get? You get price, commission. I have a friend in the business. I want to think about it. So instead of knowing how to handle, well, I've never heard of your company, unless you work for a very small company, and some of you might on this particular call, or I never see your signs in the area, or, well, I had made a commitment to the agent that I bought the house with. These are all things that could come up, but very, very rarely ever do. Instead of knowing all these other different objections, take those 4: price, commission, I want to think about it, I have a friend in the business, and learn 4 or 5 ways of handling those 4, instead of knowing one way and then knowing one way to handle 15 others. That's how you strengthen your listing presentation. Okay. We talked about role play. I put that down there. But here's the last thing I'll put down on practicing your listing presentation, working on it, learning the script. Poor practice, no matter how much you do, will not make you any better. Poor practice, no matter how much you do, will not make you any better. So here's what I mean by that. When you're role playing the listing presentation, I understand it's a role play, so it's, you don't have as much adrenaline there, but do your best and take it as real as possible. Have the energy, the enthusiasm, the excitement, as if you're going on a real listing presentation. What I don't want to see, because it won't make you any better, is go, okay, all right, here we go. So knock, knock. All right, well, hey, thanks again for having me over. I'm so excited about getting your home on the market, getting it sold. Do you mind if I come in? Yeah, you're saying, but you would never do that on a listing presentation. Or if you do, don't go. Okay, call me and I'll send somebody else out there. Okay, well, I'll give you a 25% referral fee. Okay, but you would never do that. So you have to have the energy, the enthusiasm, the excitement when you're going through it. When you role play, for example, make sure you have a real life scenario. So whenever I role play, I don't role play with agents as much as I used to anymore, but I role play with Melinda every week. We role play our listing presentation. And every week before we do the role play, we go through, what's the scenario? Who am I? Why am I selling? Where do I live? She sends me a pre-listing package every single week. Okay, so I know the scenario so we can really play along. So take it seriously. All right, I wrote down here next, right? Strengthening your listing presentation. It's about repetition and numbers. Repetition and numbers. The more listing presentations you go on, the better you will become. The more listing presentations you go on, the better you will become. So you need to get out and go on presentations, which may mean at the beginning, for some of you, you might be going on presentations that are not 10 out of 10 quality listing presentations. They might be 7 or 8s, but you're going. There are people that may say, yeah, you know what, if I get my price, I'll sell it. Okay, you're not super motivated, but I'm going to go on that listing presentation. But here's the key. You're not going for practice. You're going to get a listing signed. You're just simply, for some people, as you get more and more into business, you might raise your standards a little bit. Don't ever go on a listing presentation for practice. Go practice for practice. Your mindset on going to a listing presentation is you're going to get a contract signed. So even if I say, hey, you know what, you might have to go on some presentations that might be a 7 or an 8 motivation instead of a 10, don't ever get in that mindset, well, yeah, this is great practice. No, that's a loser's mentality. That's not going to strengthen your listing presentation. You're going there to get a listing signed. Now, don't just go just to go. If you know it's completely, oh, they're so unmotivated, this is never going to work, they're completely unrealistic, but it's practice. No. You want to go to have a shot with, but you might lower your standards just a little bit at the beginning because you need to go on more presentations. You need to be in front of more people. Okay. It's just part of the gig. You know, if you follow sports, there's a reason that when an athlete, their rookie year, it's like for some people kind of a wake-up call to the pros. It's like, hey, they're good, but you know, it's taking some time, second, third, fourth, fifth year, all of a sudden they're the superstar. It just takes time. It's about repetition. You have to go on more presentations, which means that as you're learning to get great at the listing presentation, you have to still be prospecting to try to find some presentations. Don't wait until you have it wired. Okay? Don't wait until you have it wired. Get out there and go do that. Barbara Cochran is who's on Shark Tank and used to own the, I don't think she owns it anymore. I think she sold it, but there's a Cochran Real Estate Group in New York. Maybe she's still an owner, I'm not sure. She was asked a question on an interview of what would you tell young real estate agents? Because again, she's real estate background. And she said, go out there and fail as many times as you can, but as fast as you can. So don't wait until you have it wired and then like, okay, now I'll prospect, try to go. No, go during the process. Go during the process. But I wrote down here on strengthening your listing presentation in terms of repetition, when you sign a listing or go on a really great listing appointment, do everything you can to set another one as fast as you can. The day after, or if you go on the morning, the afternoon after you go on a great listing presentation should be an ultimate prospecting day. Because part of strengthening your listing presentation is to keep momentum going in your favor. So if you go on a listing presentation at 9 a.m. and you get it signed, or maybe you don't get it signed, but you really knocked it out of the park. It just, God, you know, it just the numbers didn't make sense for them, whatever the case may be, but you know you did a good job. That afternoon, you should be making 30, 40, 50 contacts. If you go tonight at 4, 5 o'clock and you go get a listing presentation signed, tomorrow should be an ultimate prospecting day where you make 50 contacts to try to find another one. That should be the way it goes. Okay. I wrote down here next on strengthening your listing presentation, you have to work daily on developing your belief in yourself and your ability to get the job done. If you want to strengthen your listing presentation, you have to continuously, every day, develop that belief in yourself and your ability to get the job done, because for some people, that's the biggest problem. And it's not just brand new people. For some people who've been around for years and maybe they're in a rut. Maybe the market's changed. We have a lot of agents that have been around for a really long time that have been very successful that are struggling with this current marketplace, either because it's a mindset issue or because they haven't adapted to the idea that you can't say that you charge 6% and expect to get a bunch of listings. That's why we have that objection handler that says you charge 2.78. All you have to do is decide what you want to pay the buyer's agent. Because in today's market, if you don't adapt and you just say, well, I charge 6%, seller's going to laugh at you for the most part. Now, that doesn't mean you can't try to get 6%, okay? Because we do get 6% on some listings. But imagine a seller when you say you charge 6% and they see billboards everywhere that they charge 1.5%. It's crushing you. So you have to be able to adapt. So you have to develop the belief in yourself that you can do this, that you can get the job done. That if they were to ask you to come talk to them about listing their property, that you could go there and give an A+ presentation. And that if they decided to list with you, that you could get them the best possible deal. It's all about developing that belief in yourself every single day. strengthening your listing presentation. You don't have to be a seasoned veteran listing agent to develop that belief, by the way. Just not the way it has to be. All right. I wrote down here in strengthening your listing presentation, can you make a list that is seller oriented of the services you're going to provide once they sign a contract? Can you make a list that is seller oriented of the services you're going to provide once they sign a contract? Another way of saying this is, do you have a specific plan of action, step by step, of what you're going to do to help them get their home sold? If you don't have one, Mike Ferry's got the classic 18-point plan of action. Just make sure you update it though, because I think if you download it from the website, it still says you're going to fax the listing to the top agents in town. I don't think any of you are going to do any faxes. I'll be honest. I'm not sure if the fax machine even works in our office. Okay. I know the machine that we have has a fax. I don't know what the phone number is that's connected to it, nor do I know if it works. Okay. So you might update it if you do download the one from the Mike Ferry website, because I think it still says you're going to fax some things in there. Okay. If you don't want to use the Mike Ferry one, we've obviously come up with ones here at our office. If you're with Century 21, you go to 21 Online, Toolkit CMA, they have the 21-point plan of action, or whatever your company, some of you are with, I'm sure they might have something as well, but you need a specific plan of action. In order to strengthen your listing presentation, be specific. Vague terms weaken your presentation. I'll give you an example. Well, what are we going to do to get my home sold? Well, we're going to do a bunch of marketing. That's lame. You know, we're going to put it on 500 different websites. You are not going to put it on 500 different websites. You're going to put it on the MLS, and the MLS is going to put it on 500 different websites. You're using some lame thing that you don't even do, and that's your big marketing. Well, we're going to talk to a bunch of people. You can't do that. Be specific. Anyone can be vague. To strengthen, be specific. So what do I mean? Well, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, one of the things that we're going to do is I'm going to talk to 25 people every day around your neighborhood to tell them about your listing and see if they find a buyer, which means in the first week, I will have spoken to 125 people in the area to see if they know a buyer that want to purchase a home. That's specific numbers. One of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to send this out to all the agents in our office as part of our hot list. That's 200 agents that are possibly have some buyer leads that are going to get access to your listing. That's specific. Oh, I'm going to post it on social media. Well, what does that mean? Well, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm going to put it, I have a Facebook account, I have an Instagram account, I have a LinkedIn, I have a Twitter, I have a WeChat and a SheChat and a HeChat, and everybody chats, and I got all these other different things that I'm a part of, and it's all going to go on there as well. Okay. You know, so they're all going to have access to it. You know, if you pay for anything, if you pay for ads, online ads, if you send out postcards, you know, be specific. Don't just say you're going to send out postcards. Well, how many are you going to send out? What are you going to say? You know, Mr. Marcel, this is actually all going to go out to my database. I have a database of 100 people, my friends, family, past clients. They're the biggest source of my business. They're all going to get access to this listing as soon as it hits the market. So you're giving them specific things that you're going to do, okay? But also don't put anything on the plan of action that you're not going to do. Because if the seller ever decides to call you out on it and you didn't do it, that don't look good, okay? But you need to have a specific plan of action, because vague terms just don't do those kind of things. So having something along those lines. Even getting into the escrow process. Also, what I'm going to do, Mr. and Mrs. Sellers, every time an offer comes in, I do have, if you only do this if you actually, again, this is one of those, I'm going to have my lender who's, you know, ABC at ABC. He's going to look at all the pre-approval letters, and I'm going to request that the clients get at least some sort of cross qualifying from them, so we know that they're qualified with 2 different lenders in case something goes wrong. You know, all these other different things that you're going to do. So have some sort of plan of action of what you're going to do specifically to help them get their home sold. I'll tell you what, if you don't do anything else of what we talked about today and you just did that, you would be more productive. That's just part of the gig. And if you really want some extra credit to a seller and you really want to strengthen your listing presentation, let them hold you accountable to that. So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, all right, so there's 18 points on here or whatever yours is, 33, 25, 27, okay? All these points on here. What we're going to do is every Friday, we're going to get on a call, okay, between 1 and 3, pick a time, okay, doesn't matter. Between 1 and 3, we're going to get on a call. And what I would like you to do is I'd like you to go down this list and ask me if I did these items and what the results were. Does that sound fair? Yeah. So now you get to hold me accountable. I'll bet that's something you really want since you're paying me, right? Absolutely. Great. We're going to do that every Friday between 1 and 3. Seller loves that. They love that because no other agent's going to do that. Why? Because they're not going to do any of the things on that list. So if an agent told a seller, hey, on Friday, you get to hold me accountable and ask me if I made 25 calls around your area. No agent's going to do that because they're going to be like, I didn't do it. So be the one who does it. Let them hold you accountable. Boy, I tell you, that's how you win things right there. That's how you win things. All right. I wrote down here on strengthening your listing presentation, on top of a plan of action, provide a copy of your schedule to the seller. If you don't have one, I recommend you make one. If you don't know how to make one, I recommend you talk to me or your coach or somebody about how to make one. Why? Because again, other agents aren't going to do it. And here's the biggest problem we run into as listing agents. The seller knows someone who owns a mechanic shop that's also a real estate agent. They know someone that works at a pizza place and is also a real estate agent. They know that. You know that. Some of you might be that, okay? No judgment. But because of that, the thought of the industry is that real estate agents, they're just loosey-goosey. They're independent contractors. They don't have schedules. It's not that hard. I mean, for God's sakes, my buddy John's a real estate. This is the mind of a seller. My buddy John's a real estate agent. John changes my oil. He's got a mechanic shop that's open 7 days a week, and yet he's a real estate agent. This isn't that hard. Okay. They don't think real estate agents take this seriously. You show up, hey, Mr. Seller, by the way, here's a copy of my schedule to show you what I'm doing on a daily basis. As you can see, from 8 to 9, I'm working on my craft. From 9 to 12, that's when I'm doing some prospecting, looking for buyers for your property. And to be honest, I'm also looking for sellers for new listings. Okay. 12 to 1, I'm having lunch, and you go through the schedule. They will be so impressed by you having that because no one else is doing that. Crazy. Okay. So provide a copy of your schedule. What I would also do is provide a copy of all the affiliates that are going to be involved in the transaction. So what do I mean? Well, you already know who the escrow company is going to be as the listing agent. So give them a list of, hey, here's, just so you know, when we sign the contract, this is the people that are going to be helping you throughout this process. The escrow officer is Veri. Here's Veri's phone number, email. This is what she's going to do. Our title rep is this person. This is what they're going to do. Here's the transaction coordinator's name, address. Okay. The lender that's going to cross qualify. If you need help with any insurance things, here's my preferred insurance agent, blah, blah, blah. Boom, 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 all down the list. Now they feel like they're a part of something. I'm a seller. I'm sitting here. You've given me this wonderful step-by-step plan of action of specifically what you're going to do to get my home sold. I got a copy of my schedule. I know that you're on it. You're a superstar. You're a great agent. I got a list of all the people that are going to be helping me through this transaction. I'm feeling pretty good. It's hard for a seller to say no if you provide all of that. It's really hard. You have to be really off on price. And if you then know the script on top of it, that's a wrap, folks. Now, here's why this is, and we'll get to the next point, but here's why this is even more beneficial, is in case they're interviewing another agent. In case they're interviewing another agent. Now, I wrote down here, first of all, to strengthen your presentation and give you the best shot at getting the listing, ask them, which is number 2 pre-qualifying question on the script, are you planning to interview another agent for the job of selling your home? So first, ask that question. The second thing under that I wrote down is, if they are interviewing another agent, find out when they're interviewing them. And the third thing I put down is make sure you're going first. Why? Because according to NAR surveys, 70% of sellers only interview one agent. Now, granted, some of that's a lot of past clients, centers of influence, so on and so forth. So it's, they might only be interviewing one person, but 70% only interview one. So if I don't go first, I only have a 30% chance of even having a shot at it. I don't like that. I don't want to do that. So I want to go first. Now, well, what if, Robert, what if they're absolutely 100%, I did the objection handlers, I gave the best presentation of my life, but they're one of those people that they're not going to sign, they're going to interview the other agent. Oh, I'm so glad you asked. Because what you're going to do is you're going to set booby traps for the agent that goes second. So here's what I mean. Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I totally get it. Okay, you want to interview the other agent, that's fine. Can I give you a little bit of advice when the other agent gets here, though? Sure, lay it on me. Okay. So what I want you to do is I want you to ask them for a specific plan of action like I gave you. Okay, make sure they have something like that. Okay, I will definitely do that because you think that's a pretty good thing, right? Oh yeah, need that. Great. And then I want you to ask them for a copy of their schedule. Okay, because this definitely shows that I'm pretty committed to my craft, right? And that's, you want someone who's full-time, scheduled, treats their job like a real job, right? Yep. Okay, great. So ask them for a copy of their schedule. And then 3, you like this list of all the affiliates, shows that I'm pretty organized. You know who you're going to be dealing with. Yeah. Okay. Make sure they get you that list. Okay. Sounds good. So agent B walks in for their presentation and they're so confident and they're ready to go and they're going to get this listing, and they walk in and the seller says, okay, great. Can I see your plan of action? Well, yeah, we're going to get, as you can see here, we're going to do a lot of marketing, and the seller's going to go, oh, okay. What about a copy of your schedule? Oh, well, I don't have that with me. Oh, okay. Got it. Do you have a list of all the affiliates that are going to be involved in the transaction? Well, no, but I can tell you who it's going to be. Oh man, that poor agent. They're going to walk out. They're going to be so flustered and just umming and ahhing on their way through the presentation. But I'm telling you, that stuff works. Okay. You set booby traps for them, but you can only do that if you provide that information. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Okay. That's how you strengthen your listing presentation. So make sure you have all that stuff. All right. Perfect. Perfect. I wrote down here, to strengthen your listing presentation, go in with the mindset that they are going to interview another agent, even if they say they aren't, and the other agent they're interviewing is the best agent in town. To strengthen your listing presentation, even if they say they're not interviewing another agent, go in with the mindset that they are, and that other agent's the best agent in town. Because that will force you to step up your game. And if it forces you to stress out and crumble because now you're like panicked that maybe they are going to interview that agent, then you're not ready to go on the listing presentation anyways. Don't take a defensive. Okay, that's just the reality. You got more work to do and you'll get there. But go in with that mentality. So figure out who the top agent is in your area, who your big rival is. Okay. If you can't think of anybody, just assume that Karen Bernardi has decided to relocate from Boulder, Colorado into your marketplace. And the first listing presentation she's going on is that one. So if you don't know, just assume Karen Bernardi's going on that listing presentation. If you don't know who Karen Bernardi is, she's like the Michael Jordan of real estate agents, and she's from Boulder, Colorado. She is the best. So assume that, and it'll step up your game, because one of the things that crushes us on listing presentations is when we think, oh yeah, no, this is John, past client of mine, no big deal. Ooh. Oh man, that is a no-no. Okay, so you have to assume that they're going to interview that one. So you're going to make sure you follow the listing process. You're going to role play. You're going to suit up, okay, or dress up, whatever the case may be. You're going in there with the mentality that I am ready to take on Karen Bernardi or whatever agent you say, and I'm going to get this listing. But remember the point, a couple points earlier, that you have to work on developing your belief that you can get the job done. Because some people I say this point to, will assume that so-and-so is going to go also do the listing process, and you kind of freak out. That's not, you should have that belief that no problem. You should be excited that they're going to interview somebody else. You should be excited that Karen Bernardi is going to go on that listing. Why? Well, one, if Karen's going, that means that this is a quality listing appointment, because she's not going to go on some weak listing appointment. So I know I got a real seller. Number two, I know that Karen loses, because as great as she is, she gets about 85% of the listing appointments she goes on, which means 15% of the time she walks out of the house without a signed contract. No reason why the 15%. And three, I want the challenge. Sales is a win and lose business. And if you can't develop a winning mindset, it's going to be tough. So you have to develop that mindset that I'm in this to win. And boy, what a great win it would be if I went up against one of these top agents and I got the listing. You have to develop that mindset, and there's no reason why you can't. Okay? No reason why you can't. Okay? I wrote down here last couple points. There's not much more here. Okay? To strengthen your listing presentation, you have to study the market every day leading up to the listing presentation and even the morning of. Because in today's world, the seller has so much access to information that they know what's listed. They know what's sold. They don't have access to all the MLS stuff, but between Redfin and Zillow and all these other things, they have access. So if you don't know about a listing that they might bring up, well, what about this listing over here on Main Street that sold for $895, and you're telling me I should list it for $750? Well, what are you talking about? I'm listing on Main Street. Can't do that. You need to be, oh, that's right, that one on Main Street. Well, yeah, as I'm sure you saw, that one has an ocean view and yours doesn't. That one was 8 bedrooms and yours is 4. So yes, it's going to sell for a little bit more. That one has made of gold. Yours has tiles made of cloth. Okay, so yes, it's going to be a little bit different. So you have to eat, but even the morning of, because if you set the appointment today and the appointment is not until say Monday, and Monday morning you've already done the CMA, and Monday morning a new for sale by owner hits across the street, they're going to know about it. If you don't take that time Monday morning before you go to update everything, it's not going to look good. You need to know what's going on out there. Okay, more and more every day. More and more every day. Okay. And then the last couple points here: to strengthen your listing skills, increase your use of listing affirmations. I'm a great listing agent. I'm a great listing agent. Okay. I know it sounds silly and some of you think that's ridiculous, and that's fine, but it does make a difference. Okay. It does make a difference. And then I wrote down here, consider using the simplistic Mike Ferry marketing plan. Consider using the simplistic Mike Ferry marketing plan, which is 4 steps. Step 1, take a saleable listing. Step 2, do what it takes to get it sold. Step 3, tell the world you did it and how you made it happen. And step 4, take another one as a result. Take another one as a result. Take a saleable listing, do what it takes to get it sold, tell the world you did it and how you made it happen, take another one as a result. The more that you keep your mind going on successful listings, and the more you talk about it, and the more you tell people about it, the stronger your belief as a listing agent gets, and the more the world or your database strength and belief in you gets, which then results in more listings. So part of strengthening your listing presentation is not just getting that first listing, it's getting that first listing and then not letting that momentum die. You have to keep going. You have to get stronger. It's like going to the gym. If you went to the gym for a month and lifted weights, you're like, man, I'm fit. And then if you stopped going to the gym for the next month, you're no longer fit. So you got to do what you got to do, right? It's all about that momentum. All right, so look, we're right up on the time here. I wanted to end about 4:15, but we could go on strengthening your listing presentation for days, because there's other things about strengthening your voice and strengthening your appearance and all these other different things. But these are some things that sometimes we talk about, sometimes we don't. There's 9 or 10 of these points here that I wanted to get into on things that we don't always think about on strengthening our listing presentation, but that's the key. Okay. Every day, focusing on strengthening that listing presentation, one little thing at a time. All right, everybody. That's all I got. Good job. Thanks for being here, rocking and rolling. So go out there. Let's make some calls and let's go find some listing leads.
Hey, Robert.